So our app is pretty much working now, but before we get this running as a desktop app and a mobile app, let's just add a few finishing touches. We're going to fix some issues, improve the interface a little bit, and add a little bit more style. If you're new here, my name's Danny, I'm an indie app developer, and if you want to learn how to create cross-platform apps for iOS, Android, Mac and Windows from a single code base, click subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss anything. So the first thing we need to sort out is if we look at this queued chat message component on the chat page, the key is currently set to message.text. Now the text property might not always be unique. So if I send two messages with the same text, like blah and then blah, then we get an error. Duplicate keys detected, blah. This may cause an update error. So we can instead set this key property to our unique message ID. And that's going to be in the key of each message. So we can pass that in within the v4 directive like this. Brackets and then comma key. Then we can just set this key property to key. Save that. Now if we just clear the console, go back out, go back to this chat, we no longer have that key error. Now let's see what happens when we have lots of messages. So I'm just going to enter some random messages. And you can see that once we have a lot of messages, our messages start to go off the bottom of the page. So let's sort that out next. But first I'm just going to get rid of this console log from the store file. And I think that's in our Firebase send message action here. Yeah, so I'll just get rid of that. Save that, close that. Okay, so I'll click on Jim. And as you can see, we're right at the top of all these messages. And we should be right at the bottom here when we first load this page. And also whenever we send a message, that message is being displayed off the bottom. So we need to scroll to the bottom of the page whenever we open up a chat page like this, and also whenever a new message is sent or received. So I'm going to add a watcher for our messages property, which we're mapping from our store. So I'm going to add a watch object, and we want to watch the messages property, and a watcher will return a value every time the property that we're watching changes. So I'm just going to log that value out for now. Save that. So I'll clear the console, go back to the users page, click on Jim again. We can see that value being logged out, and that value is an object with all of our messages inside it. And if we send a new message, you can see that watcher is triggered again, and it logs out the new value with our new message added to it. So we want to scroll to the bottom of the page whenever this value changes. So before we actually scroll to the bottom, we want to make sure there's something in this value. So to do that, we can just do if object.keys brackets val, which will return an array with all of the keys from that value. So if that has a length, then we want to scroll down to the bottom. So we'll trigger a method called scroll to bottom, which we've not created yet. So we'll trigger this dot scroll to bottom. Then we need to create this method in our methods object. So I'll create that here, scroll to bottom. And what we want to do is we want to grab the height of this page, the scroll height, and jump right to the bottom of that. And we can get that scroll height value by using a ref. And if you want to learn about refs, check out my YouTube video at dannys.link/viewrefs. So I'm going to add a ref to our queue page component. And I'll just call that page chat. Now if we jump back to our scroll to bottom method, we can get access to that element we just added a ref to with this $refs dot the name of the ref that we added, which is page chat. And to get access to the actual HTML element, we can just add $L. I'm going to stick this in a variable called page chat, and we want to scroll to the bottom of the page. So we want to grab the scroll height from this element and scroll to that point. So we can just do window.scroll to brackets. We're not going to scroll anywhere on the x-axis, so First parameter will be 0. And then for the y-axis, we want to scroll to page chat.scroll height. So I'll just save that. So I'll go back out to the users page and I'll click on Jim. It doesn't seem to be working right now. I'm just going to add a bit of a delay to this scroll to method. So I'm going to stick that inside a set timeout with a delay of, say, 20 milliseconds. Save that again. Okay, it's now scrolled us right to the bottom. If we go back out to the users page, click on a user, it scrolls us to the bottom. However, when this page first loads, it's a little bit jerky. We can see the messages at the top for an instant, and then it'll scroll us down to the bottom. So what we can do is hide these messages until we've scrolled to the bottom. So we can add a data property to handle this for us. So I'm going to add a new data property called show messages, and I'll set that to false. Then I'm going to jump up to this container, which is containing our messages, and I'm going to bind to the class attribute, and I'm going to conditionally add a class of invisible when show messages is false. So if I save this now, these messages should disappear. Yep, those messages have disappeared. They're still on the page because we can scroll up and down, as you can see on the right here, but they're just invisible. So we now want to set this show messages property to true after we've scrolled to the bottom. So I'm going to jump down to our watcher, and after we scroll to the bottom, we want to have a little delay before we show those messages. So I'm going to add a set timeout with a delay of, let's try 200 milliseconds. And then we want to set show messages to true. So this dot show messages equals true. Save that. Okay, so if I now go back out to the users page, click on a user, we've now got rid of that jerky jump to the bottom. So that looks a bit better. Okay, so let's see if it scrolls us to the bottom when we send a message. Hey Jim, you massive ball bag. Yep, that's working. And let's see if it scrolls us to the bottom if Jim sends us a message. So I'm logged in as Jim on this other browser. I told you, you're the ball bag. Yep, it's scrolling us to the bottom. So that's that problem solved. If you found this video useful so far, make sure you smash the like button and leave a comment telling me what kind of videos you'd like to see me make. Okay, the next thing, after we send a message, this message field remains populated with the message that we entered. Also, it doesn't refocus this field. So it'd be better if, after we send a message, this field is cleared and focused again. So I'm going to jump to our send message method. And after we send that message to our Firebase action, we want to clear this field and focus it. So I'm going to trigger a new method, which we've not created yet, called clear message. And we need to create this method. So I'll create that here, clear message. And we want to, first of all, clear this field. So we can do that by just setting new message, which is the property which is bound to this input, back to an empty string. So back in this clear message method, we can just do this dot new message equals empty string. And we also want to focus this field. So I'm going to add another ref to this QInput element, which is here. So I'll add a ref to that and I'll call that new message. And now back to this clear message method. To focus that input element, we can just do this dot $refs dot new message dot focus. Save that. Okay, let's see if that's working. So now if I enter a message and hit enter, we should see this field clear and get refocused. Yep, that's working. It sent the message, it cleared the message field, and we're now focused back in here again. So we can now easily keep sending messages without having to keep clicking into this field and deleting it out. Okay, so finally I want to improve the style of this chat page a little bit. make it look a bit more like WhatsApp. So first of all, I'm going to add a class to our page of page chat. And then I'm going to jump down to the style section. And I'm going to use stylus again. So I'm going to set the lang property to stylus. And I'm going to style up this page a little bit. So page chat. So first of all, I'm going to give it a nice light brown background color of E2DFD5. Save that. Okay, why is that not working? I'm just going to jump back to the top. So I've added a class of page-chat. Let's just inspect that element. So q-page. For some reason it's not adding this class. So I'll try just reloading the page. Okay, you can now see that background color. Okay, I'd now like to add a nice pattern to this background. So I'm going to search for CSS patterns. Click on this top link. And I'd like something like this in the background over the top of that brown color. So I'm going to click on that, copy these styles, and I'm going to add these to the after pseudo element of this page chat element. So I'm going to add @:after, and I'll paste in these styles. Now for this to work with stylus, I think all of this background image property needs to be on one line. So I'm going to select all that, press Command J, and I'm just going to get rid of that silver color. So we've already got a color that we want to use. I'm just going to convert this to stylus by getting rid of the colons and the semicolons and fixing the indentation. Okay, save that. Okay, so we need to add a few more properties to this after selector to get this to work. So we need content set to an empty string. We need display block, position fixed. We need to set the left, top, right and bottom to 0. So left 0, right 0, top 0, bottom 0. And I'll add a Z index of 0. See how that looks. Okay, so I'm going to add an opacity on this to make it transparent. So opacity 0.1. Okay, that's looking pretty good. However, our messages are underneath this after element. So I'm just going to style the messages, add some Z index to those. So q-message, give that a Z index of 1. Okay, those messages are now on top of our background. And I'm just going to adjust the color of these messages to make them a bit more like WhatsApp. So I'm going to jump to our Q chat message component, which is here, and bind to the BG color prop and add a ternary if statement. So if message.from is equal to me, then I'm going to make these white. Otherwise, I'm going to use the color light green 2. Save that. Okay, this is looking pretty sweet now. Okay, so there's one more thing I want to fix. If I log Jim out on this other browser, we can't see our offline banner. And that's because it's right at the top here. So I'm just going to style this a bit so that it's always fixed and placed up here, regardless of our scroll position. So I'm going to jump to that Q banner and I'm going to add a class of fixed top to fix it to the top. However, that will be placed behind our header now. So I'm going to add some styles to this as well. So I'm going to add a new style property for that. So q-banner. And we're going to add a top position of 50 pixels, which is the height of this header. So that's now placed there. And I'm going to give it a Z index of 2 to make sure it's on top of the messages. And I'm going to give it some opacity as well. So I'll set the opacity to 0.8, save that. Okay, let's try scrolling up and down. Yeah, that banner's always docked to the top now. Okay, so Smart Chat is all working now and looking great on the web. In the next video, we're going to get this working as a desktop app and a mobile app. Make sure you click my head to subscribe and don't forget to leave a comment. If you want to grab the source code for this app, go to dannys.link/smartchatcode. And if you want to learn all of the basics of Quasar framework, Vue.js, Vuex and Firebase, then check out my full course at dannys.link/Quasar.